Hey friend, welcome back to the Created Worthy podcast. I am your host and fellow worthy warrior, Danielle Damrell. On this show, we are creating space for genuine connection by unifying women of all ages, backgrounds, and experiences. So grab your favorite drink and get ready to listen as we take a deep dive into our stories, making sure to honor and protect them in the process. We will also uncover the threads of creative processing that have already played a part in each of our lives. When we know how to utilize this as a skill, we can continue growing into the joy-filled, triumphant women we are created to be. You are created worthy. Hello, welcome back to the Created Worthy podcast. Today, I am joined by another worthy warrior, Nicole Ritter. Nicole is a board-certified holistic health practitioner, functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner, holistic nutritionist, wife, and mama. In her career, she helps clients find the root causes of their symptoms with functional labs. Through facing her own health struggles, Nicole became passionate about educating and empowering others to take their health and happiness into their own hands. Today, she is a leader in the functional health space and is sharing her devotion for whole life wellness with thousands of people each and every day. Nicole, thank you so much for joining me today on the Created Worthy podcast. I cannot wait to hear your story.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. I have goosebumps. Can you introduce me like every time I walk into a room?
Yes, I would love that. Oh my gosh. So just a little bit of backstory. Nicole and I actually met through a Denver mastermind that we were in. It was kind of an experimental mastermind back in 2019, end of 2019. Yeah, before COVID, right before the whole world shut down. Exactly. But back then were you just starting into the functional health space?
Yeah. So I think I was a health coach, but health coaches are very limited. So I was in two different programs, my holistic nutrition program and then my functional medicine program. And I was clueless. I told you earlier, I had run a jewelry business into the ground. So I really wanted to do this right this time. And actually learn how to run a profitable business and that helped people. So yeah, that was my very beginning. And then I got pregnant and COVID happened and we hibernated.
Oh my gosh. And we all went into our little cubbies.
Yes, exactly.
So I would love for you to just start a little bit with your journey towards developing your career. Do you want to, I know you just briefly mentioned your jewelry business, but what actually brought you into the entrepreneurship world?
I would say just back in college, I had no clue what I wanted to do with my life. I was raised by a doctor and a therapist, and they are very successful. They're very hardworking. And from them, I always knew I wanted to help people, but I didn't know how. Back when we were in college, like functional medicine, health coaching, if it was a thing, I had no clue it was a thing.
Right.
So I went into sales. Which I wasn't helping anyone.
What kind of sales?
I worked for ADP, so kind of helping people. I sold payroll, like software payroll. And the part about that I loved was connecting with my customers. It was in person. I literally would knock on doors, go into people's offices, and I just got lit up talking to people and I developed relationships. But it was fast, right? Like it was like one and done, like you sell them and then it's over. And I was like, but I just spent all this time connecting them, getting to know them. Like I can't just leave. So I just decided that wasn't for me. And then I actually ended up quitting and enrolling in graduate school for mental health counseling. And back, I thought I wanted to do that, but at the time I was actually living in mold, which I didn't know. I was really depressed, really anxious. I had a ton of health problems, migraines, sinus infections. I was a walking zombie. I was on a ton of different medications and I just wasn't me. If you had met me back then, you'd be like, okay, I'm not talking to her. And now I could talk to a brick wall. I just love, I love people. And it's anxiety and depression really took over me. And I thought by going into that field that I would be able to help myself, but I was I got to my internship and I was working in inner city Baltimore with, I had a bipolar client, I had a schizophrenic client, and I had a dissociative identity disorder client.
Okay. And that used to be called multiple personality, right? So that's the same.
It wasn't, no, it's not multiple. It was
Okay.
like they would disassociate
Okay.
with themselves. And I'm not an expert on that. I didn't finish grad school.
Okay.
But it was, I took their pain to like personally. And when you're working with any type of like in that environment, you can't take it personally because it's that person is hurt. And even if they're projecting upon you, it's not about you.
Right.
And it was so draining, like emotionally, physically exhausting. I remember I would throw up before I saw this one client because I was so nervous. And then the entire time I just had this pit in my stomach. And I was like, if I have to do this for the rest of my life, like, I don't know if I would like be able to survive. So it was really hard for me to quit, but I ended up dropping out. And it was that in and of itself was like, oh my gosh, I'm a failure. Like, I don't know what to do. Once again, I'm back at square one. Like, what do I do with my life? So I started a jewelry business, just to like have that creative outlet. And it was really healing and therapeutic, just working with my hands and making beautiful things. And then once I actually found black mold in my basement, it was like this thick.
Where was it?
It was in my basement. So we lived in Baltimore, Maryland. Mold is really common. I know we're not going to talk a bunch about mold, but a lot of my other podcasts I've done are on mold. So if you just Google my name and mold, a ton will come up if you're interested in that.
Yeah. And I can link some of those in the show notes as well.
Thank you. But once I found that mold, that was when I was like, okay, what do I do? Like up to this point, all of my doctors all they have done was, put me on medication. I was a walking zombie. I was just like really sick and not myself. And I found this podcast. I always talk about it, Learn True Health. And it was an interview with this guy who was talking about mold and how it could affect your health. And, side effects or symptoms can be sinus infections. I had sinus infections, right? And I had 2 sinus surgeries. I had my adenoids out, my tonsils out, and nothing helped. Migraines, had migraines, like daily headaches, chronic migraines, so bad that I couldn't see, I just had to shut myself in my room in the dark. My husband wanted to take me to the hospital. He was like, what do I do? And I was like, nothing, leave me alone. Like, don't speak to me. And I would days, weeks wasted, just like ill. So once I found that podcast, I was obsessed. I was like, oh my gosh, this is a career. I could help people. I could help myself. I could do what I've always wanted to. And really just like make a difference and also work. Like it was just combined every single thing that I wanted to do. And slowly I helped myself heal. I've reversed every single condition I have, including PCOS and quote unquote infertility, because I had 2 doctors tell me I couldn't conceive, and I have a little baby that I conceived naturally. And it's just been a wild, amazing ride, and it's a ton of personal development, and just it's been a really healing and therapeutic experience, like going through all of this and then in turn helping others. I'm in like, I can't believe it, honestly. When I talk about my story, I'm like, how did I get here? Like, and I know how I got here, but it's really beautiful. And if you would have told me like 5 or 6 years ago that I would be happy, not having migraines, not depressed, not anxious. Like, I used to walk into rooms, even if I didn't know anyone, and think like everyone was talking about me and like everyone hated me. And now I just walk into a room like, oh, cool. That's a cool like mural. Like, I don't even like,
you notice, you're more observant. You can like enjoy the world around you.
Exactly. And it's just so cool. And it's possible. And I think like that's another thing too. I love like talking about my story and my journey, because there's so many people who are, not stuck, but like they feel like they've done everything or tried everything and they just don't know where to go. And there's totally hope. And I'm on the other side of all of these different things: career challenges, fertility challenges, health challenges, like depression, anxiety. Like, I'm on the other side of it. And it's beautiful.
I love that. So just to go back for a minute, you mentioned that you had some fertility struggles, which obviously I empathize with. I don't know how much
Yeah.
you know about what we've gone through, but we're facing male factor infertility. I have my
Oh,
7-year-old daughter,
yeah.
but she has a different biological dad than my husband. My husband and
Hmm.
I would love to have more children. So we've been in this season for like 3.5 years of just
Oh,
trying all of the different things other than IVF. We haven't gotten there yet,
yeah.
mostly because of my own hesitations. But I would love for you to just share with us how you navigated through that. I mean, obviously, you took your health really seriously, you reversed all of those things. But I know that there's more of a mental and emotional side of infertility that it's hard, it can be really hard to talk about.
Yeah.
So, do you want to share a little bit about your infertility story?
Well, mine is a little different because I was in the mindset where, okay, I can't have children. So we weren't actually trying. I was focusing so deeply on my health, my emotions, like everything. I was in therapy. I did, every single functional lab under the sun. And I was really just trying to heal myself. So, and that's why I kind of hesitate to say my fertility journey, because I wasn't trying to get pregnant, because I didn't think, when
You didn't think it was
doctors,
possible.
right,
Yeah.
and my periods were awful. I have PCOS, cysts, fibroids. They're better now. Like they're almost perfect now. I wasn't ovulating. Literally can't get pregnant if you don't ovulate, right? And then
Wow.
I had a 3-month bleed with huge blood clots that put me in the hospital. So I was just like in the mindset where like I needed to, like, for my sanity, you can't lose that much blood and feel good, right? I was definitely like, I was just like loopy. So it was very different, but I focused on getting my period normal, right? Like
Mm.
regulating my hormones.
So you
And then I was
focused more on like healing your body than like
healing my
the end
body.
result of getting a baby.
Right. And
Yeah.
the emotions, oh my gosh, I'll never forget. Actually, when I found out I was pregnant, I had been throwing up for a week, and I was texting my friend Jen, and I was like, I don't know what's going on. I'm puking like I must have a bug. It was the beginning of COVID. I was like, is this a COVID side effect? And everyone was like, we don't know. Like, we have no clue.
Yeah.
It's
It could
lasting for,
be, maybe.
yeah. And she jokingly was like, maybe you're pregnant. I was like, haha, that's funny. Like, go away. And then I took a pregnancy test, and it was the emotions that flooded me where to see that and not think that that's possible. It was, I can't even describe it. And I remember I was still like on the toilet just holding this, and my husband came in and was like, oh my gosh. And I started sobbing. And I
Mm.
immediately just called my mom. My mom's my best friend. And I FaceTimed her, and she was sobbing. And I was like, why are you already sobbing? She was like, I just watched Little Women. Why are you sobbing? I was like, I'm pregnant. And she goes, okay, well, she's a therapist. So she's very much like, okay, like, why are you crying? Are these happy tears? Are these sad tears? And I actually had just started grad school again for clinical nutrition and integrative health. And I was like, I don't know what I feel. Like, I'm so happy. I'm so grateful, but I'm also like in the very beginning of my career, and it's taken me forever to get to this point. So back then, even though it was only like less than what I think it was almost 3 years ago, I didn't personally think that I could have a career and a baby.
Mm.
I didn't think those two like could exist, just because 3 years ago, that was the beginning of 2020, and I felt better, but I wasn't like fully healed.
Right.
I still like got sick all the time, all these things. So I was like, oh my gosh, I can't do both. And it was just I can't even explain it, like how weird it felt. And I was
Yeah.
also
You were
really
living a
scared.
miracle.
Exactly. And I was
Yeah.
really scared. And I think that the fear is debilitating, right? My friend had just had a miscarriage not a miscarriage, but she got to, I think, 7 months, and had to deliver the baby. And it was just like, so like the pain of that is unimaginable. And I don't know why that like took over me. I had I had low progesterone, and you need progesterone to make a baby. So I ended up taking progesterone the entire pregnancy. I was terrified. And I think a lot of people who were pregnant during COVID can relate to that, right? Like you're not only terrified of because you're pregnant for the first time. I don't have any family near me. And then
You don't even know if you can
COVID.
have your partner at that point. I remember so
Right.
many people weren't even able to have their partner in the room for
Yeah.
delivery. Like, yeah, there were
Luckily,
so many
yeah.
unknowns.
It's luckily we ended up having him December 2020.
Oh.
My husband was in the room. We delivered at Lutheran, the most amazing experience in the world.
I
Have you
delivered
delivered
at
it?
Lutheran.
Oh,
I
love them.
loved my delivery experience at Lutheran.
Oh, it
It
was
was
the
like
best.
so good.
Yeah, they're amazing. Their nurses are amazing. And just
Hmm.
like, so after I gave birth, I ended up, I don't want to call it hemorrhaging, but just like explosively bleeding. And I was so scared and delirious, right? Like I hadn't
Hmm.
slept in like probably 24 hours, and I thought I was going to die. I was like, it was the most terrifying experience. And I remember just like looking at my husband holding our baby, and he was so calm. And I looked at him and I was like, Craig, I think I'm going to die. Like, even like, you know, thinking about it, it was so scary. And no one told me anything. They actually called the doctor. The doctor had left. So there were all these nurses. The nurses were freaking out. They were really, really sweet. Like, couldn't be sweeter, but no one had answers. And they obviously, the nurses don't know your history, right? You don't see the nurses before you give
Right.
birth. And they ended up giving me, I don't even know what they gave me, a bunch of shots. They actually had to give me a catheter, which hurt more than birth because I had an epidural, and the cath,
Mm.
like it's called a straight cath. They literally stick a tube up your hoo-ha.
Yeah.
It was horrible. But and my organs were in like the wrong place, but they fixed it. And then like hours later, I looked at my husband. I was like, "How are you so calm?" And he was like, "I've never been that scared." Like him in the face of like, I don't know, I don't want to call it danger, but like whatever happens, he needs to be there because he's so calm, cool, and collected. And he's just the best person and best ads. I'm so grateful for him. But yeah, that was really, really terrifying.
Right. That's like a
And
near death experience, especially because you don't really know. You
what's
didn't
going
really know what was
on?
going on.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And of course, when I told the nurse, I was like, like, am I going to die? And she was like, no. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, well, how would I know? Like, she's like, I don't think you can die from this. But, like in my mind, I'm like, I just had this precious baby. Like, you don't sleep. I got
Right.
there at like midnight, and then I gave birth, I think it's 6:05 a.m.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
so I
Which is
hadn't
fairly
slept.
quick for like,
Actually, I can
well, I
check
don't know.
the time. I'm gonna check the time because I have it. Carter's birthday. Oh no, 10:25 a.m. Sorry.
Okay.
10:23 a.m. It's in my calendar.
All
Um,
morning you were in that
yeah,
hard labor.
yeah. Which labor, I mean, compared to my pregnancy, labor was easy. But yeah, Lutheran, shout out to you guys. You're the best.
Yes, seriously. Okay, so after you had Carter,
Hmm.
how was that transition into motherhood, especially because you had spent so many years thinking that that wasn't going to be a thing for you?
Yeah,
So,
it was hard. We don't have any family here, so my mom is an angel. She came for an entire month, and I don't think I could have survived without her doing that. Like all I did was feed my child, like, I was just a mom. She cooked, she cleaned, like she's amazing. I could not have survived without her. But once she left, I was like, wait, we have to do everything. We have to cook, clean, do laundry. Like we have to be parents, people, humans, and we have to work and do all this stuff. So that was overwhelming. I do think I love living in Colorado. I don't think we would ever move. We're so excited to raise Carter here. It's just such a good lifestyle, but that's so hard living away from your family.
yeah.
But so it's been great. Other than that, I think it would just, everyone says like it takes a village. Like, where's my village? We moved away from them. Oops.
Yeah.
Um,
But do you do things here? I mean, obviously, like you joined that mastermind, but
yeah,
are there ways that you do search for that community or
community.
attempt to build it? Because I'm in the same place
Yeah.
and my husband, he has some family here, but like his mom has Alzheimer's. So
Oh.
she's not super able to help too much.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, we just have very limited family. So we've had to be really intentional about like finding our village, because
Finding it. Yeah.
same thing, like with Ella, it became very clear when she was really young that like I wasn't going to be able to do this alone. I didn't know that my husband was going to be such a like that he was going to show up and
Yeah.
basically be my knight in shining armor, and he really
Oh.
does. He's the backbone and carries our family through so much.
Mm-hmm.
But even that isn't always enough, like we
Right.
all need people, and Ella
Exactly.
specifically needs more of a community.
Mm-hmm.
What's up, everyone? It's Morgan, the producer of this beautiful show and also the host of the Half Hood, Half Holy podcast. Just jumping in here with a word from our sponsor.
Hey there, friend. I'm Danielle Damrell, and for so long, I thought my brain was broken beyond repair. I could identify all the problems with my life, but I didn't feel like I was actually capable of fixing them. After 12 plus years of intensive therapy, I realized that there was never going to be a quick fix. The solution lied in showing up to check in and care for myself. Time where I set intentions like processing who I am at my core and processing what it would look and feel like to be fully present in order to authentically connect with my family, friends, and my community. Healing doesn't happen overnight, and everyone's journey looks different. Developing resilience happens through continuing to persevere in the hard times and finding peace and joy in life, even when you're walking through an overwhelming, confusing, or even downright scary season. This realization is how I discovered creative processing, a method that combines many coping skills and mental health tools into a tangible action that has immediate grounding effects. And the best part? You're probably already doing it. But now, I have finally found a way to show you how to utilize it as a skill in your everyday life. I would like to invite you, yes, you, to join me on the evening of January 17th at 5:30 Mountain Standard Time for a free creative processing workshop. Our intention is going to be to process you. I will take you on a journey of what it looks like to actually put creative processing into action. Taking time to process who you are at your core is not selfish. In fact, think of this as a whole new way to practice self-care, a way for you to dive into your subconscious and draw out all the ways that you are uniquely you in order to create space in your fast-paced life to dream and overcome all the creative and emotional blocks we all face all the time. Sometimes we just need a little guidance to bump us back into living in alignment. So come, bring your favorite pen, download the guidebook that I've created just for you, and let's process through creating together. I want to take a minute to speak directly to any mamas for a second. As moms, we don't always feel like we have the right to slow down, but the truth is your mind, body, and soul needs you to slow the frick down. You need time to check in and care for yourself. So schedule a babysitter or put your husband on kid duty, because I promise this is an opportunity for you to fill your cup. All right, everyone, the link to register is in the show notes. Save your seat today, and I'll see you there.
Hi, everyone. It's me again. I just want to say, I've actually been through this workshop twice now, and I am not the meeting/workshop type of person. And she's not lying when she says this will really help you connect with yourself. Not only that, but I have experienced how close my connection with God can actually be when I just take time to really focus in on me. So just give it a try. What's there to lose? Also, if you haven't already, make sure to check out the Half Hood, Half Holy podcast, where Danielle and I take nothing serious except for our love for the Lord.
It's a pretty explicitly Christian comedy podcast, so make sure to listen if you want to laugh a little.
Okay, back to the show.
We haven't been the best at that. My husband and we have a lot of friends, but I would say we haven't really found a community. We just moved to Arvada, like kind of near Stanley Lake. So
did you know that's where I grew up?
No, wait.
Yeah, in
Arvada. Introduce
Arvada.
me to people. Yeah, we love this area, but my husband and I both work from home. We were kind of workaholics. That has a bad connotation. We love our jobs. And then, we're just so busy, and our friends live all over Denver, right? Like our best friends live like near Centennial, and then other friends live in Highlands Ranch. So we do spend a lot of time going, like, just meeting up with friends, and it's hard to get together these days. I feel like when we plan events, it's like a month out, but we, so the community aspect, we haven't really found. Our neighborhood, it does not have that many kids. If they do, they're older. But that's something I would love to find, because it just makes it easier.
Oh, well, we'll be in touch, because I do have some community ideas for you over there.
Oh my gosh, love that. It's so fun. What a small world.
Such a small world. That is crazy. I had no idea you were right there.
Yeah, I love it. It's so great. I just like the neighborhood's so safe. Like, I just love it. And the people are nice, even though they don't have small kids. Like, can't hold that against them. They're older.
Yeah. And you know what? In the next few years, there'll probably be more kids.
Exactly. Yeah, that's what everyone keeps saying. Praying.
Yes. Okay. So in everybody's like pre-interview form that I send out, I ask for your favorite quote. And you listed, "Oh yes, the past can hurt, but the way I see it, you can either run from it or learn from it." And that's from The Lion King. So do you want to tell me a little bit about how that came to be your favorite quote?
So that's actually the background of my phone, not my lock screen, but like my screen here.
Yes.
I was getting very deep. And I won't blame anyone, but I was raised Catholic. Well, not very strict, but like my grandparents were Catholic. We went to Catholic church, and there was a lot of like shame I felt. And I think it stemmed from that. And there was a lot of shame throughout like my entire life, which I don't really have shame anymore. But if I look in the past, I'm like, oh, I drank too much in college and like did something, and that I had a shame over that. And it was like, I'm bad. I have so much shame, and that shame never went away. And then I had shame over dropping out of grad school. I had shame over like my failing jewelry business. And there was just this whole like cloud, and it's really no one's fault. I'm not trying to put blame on Catholicism or blame on anything, but I just felt so much shame. And that quote from The Lion King, I think I was Googling, I don't remember when, this has been the background of my phone for years, like probably 5 years. And I found that quote, and I'm like, that's so true. Who said it? Simba's dad, right? I think. Yeah.
Honestly,
maybe
I haven't watched The Lion King. I know.
It's so good. You need to watch it. It's kind of sad in the beginning, but it's good. But the past is not, I think, like when we get stuck on the past, when we live in the past or live for the future, living in the past is, like, at least for me and a lot of other people, is depression, right? You're shameful about like your choices or whatever, and you're beating yourself up. And then when you're living in the future, it's like anxious, like, oh my gosh, I have to do this, I have to do that. When I started just living in the present, my life became so much easier, like focusing on, and really only focusing on like what I can control, not beating myself up for what coulda, woulda, shoulda done or been. It's so much easier. And then not you, but like I and us, we're our own worst critics, right? We're in our heads. We're so mean to ourselves. I'm so mean to myself. And I work on this. I try to work on it all the time. And I said earlier, my mom's my best friend. I'll text her something, and she's like, "You're so mean to yourself. Like, would you talk about yourself, or like, would you talk about another person or talk to another person like you talk to yourself?" And I'm like, no, they wouldn't like me very much. And she's like, exactly. Like, you need to like yourself. So really just like working on self-love and forgiveness, right? Like, if I can forgive other people, why can't I forgive myself?
Yes.
So that's, I just love that quote. It's just so cute too. Like, if you haven't seen it, you need to go.
I know. I really need to see it. I need to just sit. I have this problem. This is kind of embarrassing, but I have this problem with movies where I just fall asleep.
Oh
like,
my gosh, I wish.
immediately. Like,
I can't.
we sit down. My husband like always is making fun of me for it because he's like, dude, like this is a good movie. So when there's a movie that he wants us to watch, like I'll watch it for like 10 minutes and I'll fall asleep and he'll just turn it off and turn something else on. And then the next night we'll watch like 10 more minutes.
Oh my gosh. So it takes you like a year to get through a movie.
For sure.
Even like action movies, like what about Marvel? They're so good.
Yeah. I don't know what it is. My brain is weird. I have a weird brain.
No, your brain is perfect. I mean, I wish I could fall asleep that easily. It takes me like a good 10 to 15 minutes to fall asleep and nothing can be on except for the fan.
Yeah,
I'm jealous.
I don't know. I think maybe it's also like especially bad in this season. So I think like maybe I'm just working through some stuff, but
yeah.
I've always been like a sleeper. I've fallen asleep in theaters.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
That's good. That's better than not being able to sleep though.
I used to have insomnia. So yeah, I'll take this over that for any day of the week.
Your body just needs to heal and sleep, right? Sleep is very restorative.
Yes, exactly. And that, I think that is like in my healing journey right now, like that's one thing I'm not like limiting. Sleep, I'm allowing my body to sleep. I have to wake up and take my kid to school in the morning, but I'm not also like, I used to work until like 10 p.m. and or whatever. And just like, I have to get this done. I have to get this done. And then I realized like, no, you know what? Not everything is an emergency. Like I don't have to have inbox 0 after I've already worked for 10 hours in a day. Like it's not that important. What's important is that I'm okay and that I am existing as a human being and not a machine. So I've been like working through that myself and figuring out how to honor that. And so far and right now, sleep is one of the ways that I'm doing that. So there we are.
I love that. And that's so important too, because the only way we can truly show up as our best selves and like serve other people is to take care of ourselves. Right.
Yes.
And I think as moms too, it's so easy to just be like, no, you know, like for you, my daughter needs this or my husband needs this, but like we have to be selfish and you know, like we can't do everything. So like saying like no is so good.
Yes. And like that phrase of you can't pour from an empty cup, like as cliche as that is, it's for real. I don't even know that is being selfish. That's prioritizing your needs, which is a basic human thing that we have to respect in other people. We would never want to, like, I would never tell my daughter, hey, you need to work 12 hours a day and grind and grind and grind to the point where you can't even exist or see. And like what you were explaining earlier with living in just a constant state of anxiety and depression, like I would never want that for my daughter. So why would I continue to put myself in a place where that is my reality?
Exactly.
Like it's not helpful at all. And I think that kind of ties back into, so going back to your quote a little bit. So in order to learn from our past pain, we have to process it. Yeah. And that is why creative processing is something that I'm so passionate about. And just like as a reminder, creative processing is a tool that we can all use to activate our creative mind to process through a certain intention. I thought it was really funny that in your pre-show notes, you said you don't use your creative flex anymore because every part of how you show up reflects your ability to create. You create super informative reels, you share beautiful content, and it's clear that you are a great connector. All of these are ways that you creatively process.
I didn't think of it like that.
Yeah. And the best part about creative processing is that it's something that we all do. We're just not always conscious that we're doing it.
Right.
Even if you're not like a creative or you're in a season where you're like, I'm not creating per se, I'm not crafting, I'm not painting, I'm not making jewelry, you're still activating your creative mind because that's something that helps us continue going. Like we can't not do that, even if you're like an analytical person. So with that being said, we all activate our creative minds in different ways. And the thing that makes creative processing such a transformative tool is when we use it with intention. So for you, it could look like, I don't know, meal planning with the intention of honoring your body and mind. Or instead of And instead of just seeing that as a task to be completed, you give it a positive intention, and then typically you enjoy the process a little bit more. So it's not like, oh, this is another task I have to check off. If you can go into that with like, ooh, I'm like building these meals, or I don't know if you do meal planning, but that kind of any kind of task like that, where you're like, I'm going to set an intention to this so that it's not so like
mundane. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, I love that.
Another example, if you go on a run, you could set an intention to process something, whether it's a new idea for your family or for your business or whatever. When you do something like that, it leads to increased clarity and desire. And that's really the biggest part of why I love creative processing and why I talk about it on this show, because no matter what you're doing or how you're serving, or even if you're a stay-at-home mom right now, you're still doing things to activate your creative mind. But when you know better, you do better. Thank you, Maya Angelou. She's the best. And that's what creative processing allows, is like, okay, I know that I can do this with intention, and it's probably going to feel a lot better. And it becomes one of those coping skills, which I'm sure you're super familiar with growing up with a mom who's a therapist. But it becomes a coping skill that kind of can just become like muscle memory, and you just use it every day in whatever ways you can. It doesn't have to be a routine thing. It can, if that's something that helps, but it also could just be something that's like, oh my gosh, I'm feeling super unclear. I feel stuck. I don't know which way is up, and I need to do something that brings me back to joy and clarity and direction. And that's what it does, is just like slows us down enough to process our reality in our present moment. So
I love that. Yeah. When you asked that question, I was thinking, I used to be so creative. I used to paint, not very well. I just like, splattered paint, but it was therapeutic and creative. And I used to make jewelry. So, I mean, I'm on Canva, not anymore, but I used to be on Canva all the time, like creating content and creating just pretty things that were also educational. I didn't even, I mean, that's definitely creative processing, but I wouldn't even like, because I wasn't making like art, I didn't even associate it with that. So that's so interesting.
Isn't that fun? Yeah. I'm just going to keep talking about it. And I know that there's a lot of science out there to back it. And the more that I keep learning about, like, so I have a communication degree specifically focused in public speaking, but communication is psychology without the science. That's what a communication degree is. And that's a huge part of why I loved it, is because I learned about all of these different methods of like how our brains work when we're communicating and how connection works. And I didn't have the term creative processing back when I was in school, but it was actually after 2020 that I was like really intentional about healing. Like I was in therapy twice a week, really processing through my trauma. And I was like, oh, it's stuck in my body. Yeah. Stuck in my brain. I'm stuck in my body and I need to get it out. And the only way that I was feeling immediate release was through creating. And I was like, okay, what's the science behind this? Like, how does this actually work? So I've been on this journey of like figuring out how this actually all works together. And the more and more that I find, I'm like, okay, this is real. Like it really is real, and it's already present in everyone's life. So like, let's talk about it. Let's learn about it. And then let's utilize it so that we can continue to grow and heal and enjoy our lives better.
Well, like you said earlier, like put an intention behind it. So I was doing it without the intention because I didn't know I was doing it. But now, like that I know about it, I could actually put that intention. And also, if you guys have kids, or even if you don't, coloring with your child or by yourself is like the most therapeutic thing you can do. It is so amazing.
Yes, 100%. It is. I love that. I just recently started, like, I'll be honest, like I haven't been the most present mom in my mind, because I've been like so stuck in my own things. How do I get through this? How do I get through this? Right. But recently I've really been like, okay, no, she needs me to like look at her, to be with her, to do her homework with her, so that she doesn't feel like she's second to anything else that I'm going through or that I'm like working on. And coloring has been one of those things for us too.
That's amazing.
I'm so glad you shared that.
So beautiful. Yeah, I love it. I mean, my son is not even 2, so he doesn't get it, but he loves coloring.
Oh, well, keep coloring with him.
I will, for sure.
So just to wrap this up, it has been such an honor to talk to you. But do you want to tell us a little bit about what's coming up next for you in your life and your work?
Yes. So I had a business, Nicole Ritter Health, for 3 years. It was great, but I actually hate marketing, and I don't like showing up on social media. To me is really draining. So I just joined forces with my friend Jen Sino. She has a huge company called Fit and Functional. She has a 1,700 person wait list. So she brought me on. I'm chief operating officer there and lead practitioner. So I just hired 2 new practitioners for her. We're going to create a huge team. We work specifically with women, for women to come and have a safe space to work, get functional labs, get education. We do a lot of education on just how to heal your body holistically. And we give you tools that aren't given at a doctor's appointment because, those are 10 minutes. They're short, you're not really being educated. So this is a 6-month program. It's just incredible. It's called Fit and Functional. And I've only been a part of it for less than a month, and I love it. I just get to show up at work. I get to work with clients. I get to lead practitioners, bring other people on, and just help grow the business. And it's like, oh, I love it. I loved owning my business, but this is the marketing part of it. I don't like it. I was just drained and my energy was just zapped. And it's just awesome. It's like the best of both worlds. I got to be a practitioner and a leader and just help more people and just show up as my best self. And I just love it so much. I'm very grateful.
That's amazing. Well, congratulations on this
Thank
new
you.
venture. I am sure that you are going to continue impacting, again, thousands of people as you already have and continue to do just by showing up and being yourself. Is there some place that people could find and connect with you if they would like to know more about you and keep up with you on your journey?
Yeah, for sure. So Instagram, Nicole Ritter Health. I have a website, but I think I may be closing it. So just Instagram. I'm very active on the stories. I show a lot of, our life and my son. My son is like literally the star of our lives. So he's like front and center in my stories. But feel free to message me there if you have any questions or anything. I love connecting with people.
Yay. Well, thank you so much. So grateful to have spent some time with you here today. And so grateful for your courage and vulnerability to share your story. Keep showing up and sharing your passion to help people find restored health and true healing. You, my friend, are created worthy. Thanks for tuning in to the Created Worthy podcast. If anything in today's show resonated with you, can you do me a huge favor and go leave a 5-star review? This helps more listeners find the show, and it also expands the impact, messages, and stories that are shared here. All the links and guest information are in the show notes. If you're on social media, I want to personally invite you to continue the conversations about these important topics that we're talking about. You can find Created Worthy on both Instagram and Facebook by just typing in Created Worthy Podcast. Can't wait to talk to you soon, friend. And don't forget, you are created worthy.